On this episode of Locked On West Virginia, Alabama is going to be off the schedule and Pitt is back on the schedule. How do we feel about that? And Jordan Lesley said the secondary is an easy fix. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and here on YouTube, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And that's your team every single day. What is up? Welcome in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is another edition of Locked On West Virginia. And we've got a few interesting topics to get to today. First on the docket, we're going to be talking about placing Alabama on the schedule with Pitt. Is that what we want? Jordan Lesley is talking about the secondary, and he calls it an easy fix. Do we agree with that? And then the quarterback matchup this Saturday, I think, is very interesting. Two completely different style of quarterbacks. Opposites in a lot of ways. Let's kind of compare those guys, and who's the better quarterback in this game? Is it closer than we think? That and more on this episode of Locked On West Virginia. First, we have to get to the most important topic, I feel, and that is replacing Alabama on the schedule. I think it's something that needs done. While it would be great to play Alabama on the schedule, in my opinion, look, if the 12-team playoff is going to be what it is for us anyway, we may as well have the easiest path there possible. Why in the world would you want to play one of the two best or three best teams in all of college football every single year and just make it that much harder on yourself? And why would you not want to replace it with a team that's, let's just face it, not been that good lately, but is a huge rival, right? And somebody that everybody can get into. It's great for the region. It's great for their neighborhood. It's great for our state. Let's read about it. Skylar Callahan wrote an article on this yesterday, and it says, West Virginia may look to axe Alabama series to extend the backyard brawl. Neal Brown knows how important it is to keep the rivalry with Pitt going. This Saturday, West Virginia will make the short trip to Acrisure Stadium to face the Pitt Panthers in the backyard brawl. Following next year's brawl in Morgantown, the rivalry will be interrupted for 3 years before returning to Pittsburgh in 2029. Today, WVU head coach Neal Brown was asked about the upcoming interruption and hinted at the possibility changing in the near future. We've got to get our schedule fixed, and we're in the process of doing that. But yeah, I think it's a series that needs to be played. It's important. I think Pitt wants it. We want to play it. College football is so up in the air. Nobody really knows what the future looks like. But if we stay on this, we can play 9 conference games, and you can play another Power 4. I think it makes sense for us to play the game. Close proximity, great TV audience. The fans on both sides are excited about it. And if you look at us moving forward, as soon as we get through this little run here, to me, it's 9 conference games, it's Pitt, and it's an FCS. And it's a group of 5, preferably the FCS. And the group of 5 needs to be at home. That gives us an opportunity to give us 7 home games every year, which is what we need to do. We're in the process, he added. When asked further about it, hell, we got Alabama, and that ain't fixed. Pitt has 1 open slot for non-conference game in 26, and 2 in 27 and 28. West Virginia's non-conference is full in 26 and 27, but has 2 open slots in 28. This is extremely important to get done. It can't be overstated just how much better of a chance we have to have a good season. Momentum-wise, you want to talk about feeling good early in the season, much like Maryland used to be. You've heard everybody say this for years. Maryland used to be the barometer. If you beat Maryland in any given year, it used to be, that would kind of determine how the season went. Well, Pitt can be that, right? Pitt can be a good barometer, much like they will be this year for future of this season. I believe that. If we beat Pitt this Saturday, I think we stand a chance to have a good season, 8 to 10 wins. If we don't, we're looking at 6, right? Or worse. I mean, it's, that's at least how it's going to feel. And it's important to extend the series beyond this year. Number one, these kids are just now getting the feeling of being educated about the game. Pat Narduzzi's press conference yesterday, they kind of went over that. You know, a couple years ago, they had to educate all these kids on this rivalry, guys. We're losing all the rivalries in college football. And if we can replace Alabama with Pitt, not only is it good from just, listen, we played this thing for 100 years, and yes, while change is good, not all change is good. Sometimes you have to remember things in life. Tradition is good to an extent. And I think this game is one of those things. This week tells the story of it. This game would have been just as big as the Penn State game had it been in the kickoff, right? It just happens to be that we had a loss now. Pitt had to come back from 20-something points, and they actually went down in the ESPN FPI. There's, not as much momentum with this game as in past years. But it's still going to be a huge game. It's still going to draw pretty big ratings, probably in the 3 to 4 million range on ESPN, if not better, considering it's a weaker weekend on college football as far as the schedule goes. And, it just needs to get done. Can't overstate that enough. And to get this thing extended out 3, 4, 5 years, at least until college football shakes up again, I think it would make all parties feel better. And Neal Brown pointed out the most important part, in my opinion, having 7 home games for the foreseeable future. Listen, with 7 home games, you're going to have a chance to win 5 of those every year at least, right? And that gives you a chance to have really good seasons, That means you only have to win 3 to 4 of your away games to have a good season. Not saying you're going to go win 10 games every year, but you could say, hey, we could be in the conversation every year with 7 home games. It makes it a lot easier, considering Pitt, unless, maybe Pitt, which they're capable. I'm not saying they're not capable of getting good for a few years and maybe dusting us a few times. It could happen, but so could we. And who's going to grab the bull by the horns? Both conference futures are up in the air. The winner of this game could determine a lot. Recruiting in the area is huge. There's a lot of good players in the Pennsylvania area. Pitt has an inherent advantage in Pittsburgh, in that Pennsylvania area. But West Virginia's footprint is also large in that area. And so there's so many beneficial factors to it. The winner of that game is probably going to win some recruits. It's going to win some recruiting battles. Obviously, it's going to win some leeway with the fans. Coaches' jobs are probably going to be extended as a result, and coaches are going to get jobs as a result of winning that game. It's much like the Ohio State-Michigan game, but on a little bit lesser scale. You can go 1-11, but the one game you better win, damn better well be Pitt, right? So I think that's the importance of it. Let's just hope it continues to be extended, because I want to see it. I am all for it. Love Virginia Tech, love Maryland. But if we can only have one, it's got to be Pitt or Virginia Tech. And it looks like Pitt has got a date on their schedule, so let's do it. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, Jordan Lesley's talking about the secondary, and he made some comments during his press conference the other day saying it's an easy fix. But is it really? Let's talk about that on this episode of Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach, or HC. Hey, Locked On West Virginia fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. I have downloaded the Ultimate College Football Head Coach game, and it's an amazing game. It's a simulation. You got to step into the shoes of a head coach and actually try it out. You can lead your own program to glory. You can lead your home team or a team you've never played with before to glory. Imagine actually being in control. You can be the head coach of West Virginia, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling scholarships. You control every crucial detail of your program. It's really all in your hands. But will you be able to handle the pressure? That's the real question. And here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during games. Are you an X's and O's guy or girl? Because your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but it's going to shape the future and legacy of your program, and we all care about legacy. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free. It has no ads. It's 100% playable offline, and you can play it on the go as you want and when you want to. And, of course, we have a special offer for Locked On West Virginia. Hence, use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB in all caps inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Bring your coaching legacy home today. Jordan Lesley, much maligned here recently, and he took a bit of a bump in the head Saturday. Maybe that was the reason the pass coverage was, for lack of a better term, bad, right? And against an FCS opponent, no doubt. So he made some comments today that I thought would be pretty cool to talk about. Thankfully, Mountaineer Guy on X has highlighted just those very comments. It's about a minute long, and I'm going to share that with you really quick. West Virginia Sports Now and Mike Ostie has given me permission to share clips of theirs as long as I give them credit, and this is the clip of theirs. So hopefully you enjoy.
We're not executing very, very simple things. And I think a little bit of it's trying to do too much. You know, a lot of times you go into a game like this and, you know, they think they got to have 3 picks, you know, and they get all these different things published about them, whether it's PFF grades or whatever it is. It's like, do what your coach should do. And it's simple fixes. It's easy things, you know, it's whether it's playing the ball in the air, the depth, width, execution of your drop. So I'm not like, you know, it's game 2. It's easy fixes. Like the sky's not falling. It's not panic time. You know, it's not, you know, we repped a bunch of guys. And so that's, you know, it's simple little bitty fixes and we'll get it fixed. I mean, if we're just going to play 2 games and shut it down, you know, make my fall a little easier, but we got a lot of season left. And so we got to play better. We got to get better, play better, execute what we're trying to do, which was a very, very limited in that game. I said that after the game, and I wouldn't change it for anything. You know, we're not going to go in and reinvent the wheel we're trying to do in game 2 of the season. It's just not what we're going to do. And
So here's what I'm hearing, guys, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but did he just say we're not going to stop doing what we've been doing? I'm not exactly sure how to interpret this. On one hand, I completely get what he's saying. Obviously, I don't think anybody's asking you to reinvent the wheel, you know, or to what's the best term to put here? To try a whole new different coverage, alignment, scheme, all that stuff. Like, nobody's asking you to do anything vastly different. But there are a couple things, and one thing that was admitted by Lesley last week was against Penn State, he openly admitted after the game, I got caught playing the tendency, right? I got caught playing a tendency in this situation instead of playing the situation. And it was at the end of the first half against Penn State, and Penn State threw a bomb, right, and scored right before half in what was a 13-6 ball game, and really turned the game on its head because guess who got the ball after half? Penn State. And so it really changed the ball game. That's like what Coach Neal Brown talks about, the middle 8, right? The last 4 in the first half, the first 4 in the second half, and we lost those. Fast forward to game number 2, right before the half, you're in man coverage, and boom, down the field against a very good receiver in Seven McGee. Don't get me wrong. I know he's good. You get destroyed for a bomb, you know, and I'm not asking to reinvent the wheel. I'm asking for some situational awareness. Now, I don't know it all. And to be honest, I haven't looked at the film after in the second half of the last game, but I think they were in man coverage again. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were in man coverage 2 weeks in a row to end the half. therefore a bomb happens, and we just can't have that. You give up a bomb in the half, you give up big plays to end halves, there's a chance you're going to lose a lot of those games. It's such a momentum swing. Momentum going into the half is probably one of the more underrated things in all of college football. And luckily, we played a really outmatched opponent, especially our offense versus their defense. They had no shot. After the game, their coach, Greg Gattuso, was talking about how we couldn't guard them. He said it openly, guys. He said we knew they couldn't guard our receivers, and we couldn't. We couldn't guard. All those are Power 5 guys in FCS uniforms. Let's not get that twisted. So, don't go to the comments, guys, and say, listen, we got beat by FCS players. These were FBS. Seven McGee is 1,000% going to be on an FBS roster next year, and he's probably going to be the number one guy. Hell, I hope he comes to West Virginia. But still, it's situational awareness, and I just feel like I just worry that they rely on analytics too much and tendency too much, because all it takes is a tendency breaker, right? In game one of the season, you were playing tendencies off of what exactly? Andy Kotelnicki had never called a play at Penn State up until then. So what tendency were you going for here? I'm just trying to figure that out. Are you basing it off Kansas? Are you basing it off of Buffalo? Are you basing it off Wisconsin Whitewater? I'm trying to figure out exactly what tendency breakers you got hit with, because obviously they knew what your tendency was in that situation, and they caught us red-handed. Point being is, I hope this can be fixed. It's literally the one big weakness we have on this team outside of red zone, although that got better last week. We'll see. And I just want to see that the secondary be comparable to everywhere else in the defense, because this defense actually has a chance to be good if it could just get the secondary right. And you told me the bodies were good before the season back there. So I need to know what's real and what's not, and I just – this week's going to tell us a lot. If Eli Holstein dices us up, you might as well just get ready for the rest of the season unless they play different players that are better, that get better. I'm not saying players can't get better, but it's not going to be it's going to be a little foreboding if that happens, guys. So let's just hope that we lock Eli Holstein up, somebody that I'm going to talk about next, who I think is a bit overrated. So if you want to hear about Eli Holstein, the Garrett Green, the quarterback battle, join me next on Locked On West Virginia, and I'll tell you exactly why I think he's just a little bit overrated. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me and you always have a large list of projects for the home, when you get your supplies for the project, do not forget the most essential supply, which is obviously a 5 Hour Energy shot. It's got 0 sugar, it's got a convenient portable size, and it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore: watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone, and you really should try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12 or 24 packs, singles in those 24 packs. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's 5, the number, hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code, LOCKEDONCFB, to receive a 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so go to 5hourenergy.com today. Garrett Green versus Eli Holstein. It's not something I thought I would be saying very often in my life, right? But here I am saying it. When I watch Eli Holstein play, I think a couple of different things. Number one, this guy has functional movement, but I wouldn't consider him to be extremely mobile, although he can move the chains. He's not Drew Aller either, though. If you get to him, you can sack him. That's number one. Number two, he reminds me of Garrett a lot early on. He throws some really inaccurate balls at times, and I just don't think he's there quite yet. And I think in this game, to believe it or not, I think he's going to be the worst quarterback we faced until to date. Burkett was really good for them last week. I really like the kid, 4-star kid. Went to Wisconsin out of high school, and honestly, Wisconsin's probably wishing they had him because he's a good player. Obviously, Drew Aller speaks for himself. You know, he's probably a top 15 quarterback in the country. And so you've got the Holstein kid who I do think is going to be good at some point, but I don't believe in him quite yet. If you look at the numbers against Cincinnati, in the third quarter, about halfway through, he was 5 of 14 for 46 yards. That's midway through the third quarter. Pitt was down 27-6, guys. Okay? They had a drive. He completed 5 passes. They completed a big third down to, I think it was Mumfield. And then they finally scored a touchdown, and they were within 14 points. In the fourth quarter, he went 10 for 11, 189 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That would be like Garrett Green doing that against Penn State. And it's as far as obviously Cincinnati's not as talented of a defense as Penn State, but what I'm trying to say is it's like, the struggle that we had against their defense. Then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, he goes 10 for 11, 189 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's basically what Holstein did against Cincinnati. Pretty insane stuff. They were getting 4th downs. Like, one of them went like 50 yards, 40 yards, something like that. Desmond Reed was huge during that time span as well. They went for 2 quick conversions twice on both touchdowns. I think they got one of them. And if you look at the numbers in that game, like, they really needed some luck and some good play. Like, it goes both ways, and I totally get that, for things to turn out like they did for them. And I feel like they got some momentum going, and then he got into a little bit of a rhythm. And he did look good at times, but, man, he had some really bad-looking throws. He's going to have a chance against West Virginia to prove me wrong against the pass defense that has not been good. I think our front is going to be able to get to him. I think we're going to get some sacks in this game. I think we're going to really throw him off with that. I don't think they've got an answer for Sean Martin in this game. We'll see. But I think Holstein looks bad in this game. I think Garrett Green looks good in this game. I think Garrett Green has an incredible game. I think he rushes for over 100 yards. I think he rushes for 2 touchdowns and probably throws for a touchdown. I'm going to do predictions on this later on in the week, but I really think this is going to be a fun game for the West Virginia offense. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm no pro, but just saying, I feel like this is going to be one of those games that really sets the season right for one team or the other. If Pitt ends up 3-0 after this week, they might be for real. I think people will have to start giving them a hard look. But the way they looked against Cincinnati, if you go watch that game, I think they're more along the lines of who they are in the first 3 quarters of that game rather than the rest of the time that they were on the field there. I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong. We'll see. Time will definitely tell. But I think the West Virginia pass rush has got to say a lot about this game. This guy's statuesque in the pocket. He can move a little bit. He's not an Aller. He doesn't even have that kind of mobility, but he moves around to throw it. So I think West Virginia is going to have to get after it and try to throw a kid that's a redshirt freshman off and muddy the picture up for him. But to me, head-to-head, there's no doubt Garrett Green's the better player in this game. I mean, come on. He needs to show it. This has got to be a game where Garrett Green establishes his dominance in a game and needs to take it over. And I think he's going to do that in this game Saturday, guys. I really do. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Locked On West Virginia. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, drop a comment below. Tell me if I'm right, wrong, or indifferent. As always, I would love to thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen today. But if you could do me another favor, make on Locked On College Football your second listen, right? If you could do that, that would be great. Locked On College Football's podcast, they have NIL deals. never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron, and you can find the link to the Locked On College Football in the description so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That's your team. That's every day. And this episode is over. I am out.